At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Randall Edington. We are privileged to have him with us this morning. Randy is the Chief Nuclear Officer and Executive Vice President at Arizona Public Service Company, or known as APS, since 2007. He's responsible for all nuclear-related activities associated with the Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station, the nation's largest power producer. He has more than 25 years of commercial nuclear power plant experience and additional 8 years of Navy experience. Prior to joining APS, Randy served as Site Vice President and CNO of Cooper Generating Station in Brownville, Nebraska, of Entergy, Indian Point Energy Center, from 2001 to 2003. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Physical Science from Arkansas Tech University and a Master's in Operational Management from the University of Arkansas. Randy is the CNO lead for training on the Nuclear Promise Initiative. Please join me in welcoming Randy Edington.
Good morning. Good morning. So the main part she looked at my opening or my introduction is I have 2 daughters, 3 granddaughters, and a wife of 44 years. Amen. So I come to work. So basically I go to work because they pretend to listen to me. At home I don't have much of a chance. Okay, so quickly on my schedule, I came from DC, got here. I will be here to 2 o'clock, so we'll be glad to answer any questions. And I spent 11 hours, 13 hours in Phoenix, wash clothes, and go back to South Carolina. So I would like to stay a lot longer. It's an interesting conference, but I will be around a few hours if anybody wants to talk to me and break and stuff. The other thing on my intro is I'm the chairman of the Executive Advisory Group, which is all the chief nuclear officers have been for 8 years. I'll turn that over this August as I'm heading toward retirement this spring. I'm in charge of was the chairman of the PWR Owners Group, which is not only all the U.S. pressurized water reactors, it's 117 internationals. I have been on the Fukushima Steering Committee. I've personally been to Fukushima Daiichi 4 times, and we'll be back over there in a few weeks. So I'm very involved in the industry, and it's an important industry. It's something that I have a lot of passion behind. I think it's an extremely important industry, and that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. This audience is an interesting audience. It's very diverse. We got all power plants right here. We got Department of Energy, NRC, various different groups across the area, some vendors. So it's an interesting audience. So I'm going to ask you a question. If somebody asked you, what is my job? And you had to answer it in 2 to 3 sentences, what would you say? Any engineers in here? It's 2 to 3 sentences, not a 2-page dissertation. Somebody asks you what your job is, think about it a second. How would you answer that? You only got 2 or 3 sentences, you don't get to write a lot. Well, my belief is most of us, not everybody in this room, but most of us, our job is to generate electricity with nuclear power, and therefore you must do it safely. Safely is not a choice, it's not something you get to play with, it's an absolute ultimate requirement of this industry. And if you don't believe that, get the hell out of my industry. So safely and efficiently generate. Now some of you, this broader audience, maybe that's not directly, but let me ask you this. If our industry goes away, the commercial nuclear industry goes away in the next 10 years, how many of y'all going to be doing something different? Raise your hand. Come on, think about it. The commercial industry goes away, you're not here. Some vendors would be affected. NRC would be affected. INPO would be affected. It'd be a heck of a different thing. And people, we get out here and a lot of times we define our jobs, we lose focus on what we're really doing. We're safely generating electricity with nuclear power. They've asked me to come in and talk about delivering nuclear promise. What is it? I've got a few things up here. Let's see, there we go, I can see it here. Most of that stuff is listed in the efficiency and cost savings, and that's where we're going to spend a lot of work, a lot of time. There's a whole new other area, that's revenue stream. And there's a whole section of us working on that, and you should be seeing some of the headlines and stuff, what's going on. So what is delivering the nuclear promise? It's something that's very necessary to our industry to get it to where it can be around. It's also very dangerous. When you're going to make this much change, it's going to be an interesting challenge. Our industry is operating in electric markets where natural gas, shale gas, which nobody even knew about 10 years ago, is completely changing the market. The subsidize on solar and wind is completely changing the market. So the real question is what the utility future look like in 10 years. One thing is guaranteed, it's not going to look like what it does today, and certainly not what it looked like 10 years ago. For a long time, we had a very stable industry. Now we have a very changing industry. We have to take that into account. We've lost plants already. We have others that are going to go down. Perfectly good running plants. So these are things that is serious, it's real, and we have to look at that. How did we get there? Well, actually, we got there doing some pretty good work. Any of y'all think about where the industry was 20 or 30 years ago from the performance and where it was at? Wasn't that good? So a lot of the work we've done has been the absolute right stuff to do. And we kind of got to the point, I still remember around 10 years ago, or maybe 15 now, INPO was talking about what's an AFI. And they started saying any value added. Let me tell you, if it's this much value added for this much work, eventually this much work compounds and it's no longer any value added. Now we have so much work to get this much out of it. So that's really what delivering nuclear promise is how do we go back and take some of that out. And it ain't going to be easy. There's no way it'll be easy. There's going to be a lot of different opinions, a lot of challenges, a lot of arguments. And frankly, that process is part of the process. We need to have those kind of challenges and questions. And in the end, everything's on the table. Everything is on the table. And at the end, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it. But we should ask, can we do this? Can we make this change? And in the end, we need to ask that second question, which is, should we do it? And because of the safely and efficiently doing it. So we came up with a nice little cartoon on this one. It looks pretty good. Everybody sitting around the room, look at profits and sales and what's happening. And what if we don't change it all and something magical happens? That's really the question. I mean, there's a lot of people, why are we doing this? I mean, we're performing better than we ever performed. Because bottom line, we're losing plants. And the utility business is changing. So we can't just sit around the room and hope something's going to happen. We have to move. And when you make this kind of change, it's not going to be perfect. But that's the intent.
So I'd like to begin with a story about monkeys. You take 5 monkeys and you put them in a cage, and you suspend a bunch of bananas from the roof of the cage, close the door. Inside the cage is a little stool. Now monkeys like bananas and they're pretty smart, so they look at the bananas, they look at the stool, they pick up the stool, they go for the bananas, and as soon as the first monkey touches the bananas, you spray freezing cold water on all of them, which they hate. And they back off, and then they'll creep forward and they'll try again, and you spray them again. And after about 3 attempts at getting the bananas and getting sprayed, they'll stop, and they'll just sit there and look sadly while they're shivering, look up at those bananas. Now at that point, you open the door and you take out one of those monkeys and you put a new monkey in. So now you have 4 wet monkeys and 1 dry monkey in the cage. You close the cage, and the new monkey looks around, sees 4 shivering wet monkeys, sees the bananas, sees the stool, moves the stool, goes for the bananas, and as soon as he starts to reach for the bananas, the 4 wet monkeys jump up and beat the heck out of him. So now you have 4 wet monkeys and a bloody monkey. door and you pull out one of the wet monkeys and you put in a dry monkey. So it's now 3 wet monkeys, a bloody monkey, and a dry monkey. And you close the door, and the dry monkey looks at the bananas, looks at the stool, moves. Now, all 4 of the other monkeys jump up and beat the heck out of him. So now you have 2 bloody monkeys and 3 wet monkeys, and you repeat this process again and again. And the 5th time you repeat it, there are now no wet monkeys left in the cage. There's 4 bloody monkeys and a dry monkey. The dry monkey, the new guy, looks at the stool, looks at the bananas, moves the stool, goes for the bananas, and the other 4 jump up and beat the heck out of him. Now think about that. Why did they do that? Because that's the way it's always been done. That's what you do. But none of them ever personally experienced getting wet. They don't know why that was the way it was. Just that's the way it was. So that's what they did. And it occurs to me that in many respects of our lives, we are like those monkeys. We do lots of stuff that we have no idea why we do it. We don't even bother to examine it. And in some instances, that does harm. We have certain things that we do that may once upon a time have made sense in a particular set of circumstances, but probably don't make sense today, and still we do.
Why do we do what we do? Any of y'all ever feel like that bloody monkey? I ask questions all the time, is it all to say something at all? Why do we do what we do? Just take a minute and ask yourself. You know, the good news is 80% of what you do is the right thing. 20% of it, though, can probably be changed, maybe more. So why do we do what we do? We've had years of building this, and we just keep doing these things, and it becomes, you must do it. You have to do it. So let's talk about the years for a minute. I just kind of picked apart info, and I went through years of how we added layers of good structure, and in some cases, lots of bureaucracy. Why do we do what we do? We're a highly regulated, auditable business. Not even knowing what business you're in, you can take that scenario, look at all the audits and evaluations, and before long, you can see where you're going to go. It's natural. We're a highly auditable. Sometimes we do stuff because it's easier to audit, not because it helps me safely and efficiently generate electricity. We get in that role. Why do we do what we do? Now, we're at a point we got to stop doing something. And that's where this pushback is going to be. And this is what this is about. I didn't say we're not going to do it about some challenges and mistakes. So let's just take 3 Mile Island, where kind of the nuclear industry really started shifting. Let's see, how many of y'all, let's see, March 1979. Where were you? Let's try this. You weren't born yet. Stand up. Come on. You're born now. You weren't born. Stand up. You got one back there hiding, I think. You're going to get some help. Keep standing. How about you weren't out of high school yet? Stand up. Wow. Okay, y'all can sit down. You know, how many of you were in the, don't have to stand up for this, how many of you were in the commercial nuclear industry? Now? March 1979. You know, when I speak to many audiences of engineering, you know, half my engineering department wasn't born when 3 Mile Island. Wasn't born. Where will the industry be in 5 years? Half the industry will not be born. I may have this wrong, but I believe the NRC, 30% or more of the NRC wasn't born. And in another 5 years, we'll be over 50%. I consider ancient history if you weren't born yet. In my case, that's pretty ancient. By the way, I was in a nuclear submarine in March 1979, so I wasn't in the commercial, I was in the nuclear industry. But, you know, it's changing dramatically, so a lot of stuff that we do is just those bloody monkeys telling you what to do. Yeah? You might want to ask why. And there's a lot of good answers. There's something I call the Knapp-Schick's Tech Manual Syndrome. I was in in the Navy, NAV ships. You know, when you ask the question in the Navy, they say, well, yeah, you got to do that. Well, where's that? That's in NAV ships technique. Why do they say that? Because nobody ever looks at NAV ships technique. Now, I'm from Arkansas, but my good state of Missouri, what's their license plate say?
Show me.
A lot of times, I've done recovery plans. I've done 5 recovery plans. So a lot of times, I bring a little Missouri license plate. So every time somebody tells me you can't do that, I hand them a license plate. Show me. So first, you got to find an actual stick knife, which takes days sometimes. Then when you find it, it's up on the shelf behind the beta VCRs that you haven't thrown away yet. Maybe there's VHS VCRs there too. Y'all think they're coming back? Why don't you throw them away? There's a story to that, but I'll let it go. And then they blow the dust off, and they look at it, and guess what? It ain't there. I have had people quote specific, you must do that, procedure, whatever, ANSI standard, and the more specific they are, the more you want to give them the license plates they show them. Because it frequently is not there. Or if it is there, it's this much, and they're telling you this much. So this is what was required, and this is what we do, and we've linked it all together. I've made a career out of doing this. Show me. I want to see it. Well, how long we just stop doing that? And there's a lot out there. There's a whole lot out there, and that's what delivering the promise is about, is asking us to look at that. So the next 2 slides, and you can get them in the slide deck, it just walks through info. It's, you know, when we memorandum grant NRC, when we did corporate assist visits, evals. By the way, why do we do evaluations every 2 years? Does that seem like a good time? Yeah, that's what we do. That's the only reason. Why do we do accreditation every 4 years? Now 6. Colleges do it every 10 years, right? Why do we do 4? Because we were started up, we didn't have it, so that's the date we picked. There's nothing magic about a lot of this stuff. It's what we chose at the time. And it doesn't necessarily apply today. Can we monitor these plants a lot better now, electronically, digitally? I mean, we have a clearinghouse information on info. I know so much about what's happening in your plants now that I didn't know 20 years ago. So maybe they're valid on 6 years or 4 years, like Wano was at. They came down before. We're talking about more, there's a lot of resistance to that. And there's some danger. Yes, a few plants will maybe go off the edge a little bit quicker. Yeah, but there's a point here where we're choking everybody at this point. So we walk on through these. Code of professionalism. I actually worked on the one in Arkansas. So anyway, I'm not going to, I just go through pages of all this stuff we've done. Well, we're through info. I didn't do NRC, ANSI, insurances, etc. There's a lot of it out there. And a lot of it was very good and necessary. And a lot of it is no longer necessary, or we have different ways of doing it, better ways of doing it, we just haven't changed. So that's what delivering the promise is about. When did we move from a self-generated structure to a self-generated bureaucracy? I kind of read a lot about history and stuff. Arguably the Roman Empire died because it was choked by bureaucracy. It quit expanding, and it didn't put rule after rule after rule, and it pretty much choked itself off. So did the Greek Empire. And some could argue the U.S. is in that stage right now, right? We got any bureaucracy out there, rules out there? Congress meets and they judge success by how many laws they've wrote, excuse me. I'm from Arkansas. The two weeks we had English, I was here. I don't want to talk about math, I was turkey. So history is there, and that's what happens. But maybe we don't have a congressional session where we judged by how many laws you took off the books, not by how many you had. Listen to it. Oh, we only did 140 laws this week, so it's no longer, it wasn't a good week, you know. It's amazing when you look at it. It's bureaucracy, it's natural. It's a natural state, and it's where our industry and our society is at. So then we get into all the others, and I'm again not going to pick them apart. But as you get into delivering the promise, you get back into why am I doing this? Kind of interesting some stuff we're learning. Many of it is just that. It's a nab chip stick manual syndrome. It's not really required. Or it was an arbitrary number that we picked that meant something 25 years ago. It doesn't necessarily mean it today. Have we done any good? Well, absolutely. Look at the capacities. I remember when we used to try to figure out could we get to 80% capacity factor. And then the idea of 88 was just, oh man, nobody can make that. And today we regularly do over 90, 92, 94-ish. 88's an okay year, right? And we used to think we couldn't get there. You know, outages 60 and 70 days, now 30-ish. And they're safer, better quality, and the plants run better. So that's an idea of efficiency and effectiveness. We got the durations down, and we gained everything else. And that's what we want to do in delivering nuclear promise. And I would argue that many things in delivering nuclear promise, we can actually get more efficient and more effective. I also think this is serious enough that you've got to, sometimes we may give up this much value to lose this much work. So technically that's a reduction in performance, in conservatism or whatever. So yes, in a risk area, we're going to actually get a little riskier, a little, for this much gain. But the reality is, this much gain is killing us. We can no longer do that. And getting everybody, you know, Fukushima Daiichi happened, and the industry structure was such that we had worked together, organized together, NRC regulated together, IMPO, we had a lot of training. So we actually came together extremely well. And we went after that. And you know, can you imagine, every single plant has the same electrical and mechanical connections for all their flex equipment and for the two big centers in Memphis. And we were doing it so fast that some people had already put it in and had to change. Now that's all these diverse companies, or in some cases their competitors, did all that together. That's pretty amazing. And did it fast. So we can do it, and it is necessary, and we need to do it. And safety got better. But it wasn't just capacity went up, safety got better. Here's industrials, our dose. Look at that. It's pretty amazing. We're in places of dose that we never thought we could get to. Significant events, plants are running better. So nobody can argue. In fact, that's probably the challenge with this. A lot of what we did was good. So how do we keep the core and get rid of the bureaucracy? That's going to be the challenge, because somebody's going to be a little defensive on this, right? Including me. And when I say this, every single one of us have our area that we want to protect. But for the good of the industry, we've got to figure out what's really core as we go change it. And giving up a little bit of risk for this much gain is absolutely the right thing to do, and going to be extremely difficult. And will we make a few mistakes? Absolutely. There's no way. There's a few things going to happen, and we're going to have to do it later. Sometimes we're going to say we can do it, and we will do it, and we forget to ask that should we do it. If I ask should, though, a lot of people are going to say we shouldn't do it, and a lot of people will say should. So it's not going to be a nice, smooth path. So here's plants that have shut down, and here's plants that have announced shutdown. So two of those plants, Kewanee and Vermont Yankee, was pure market driven. They were good IMPO plants. And I think Kewanee was an IMPO 1 and just got license renewal to market scenario. These other plants that have announced, they're perfectly good running plants, there's nothing wrong with them. Problem is, as a utility, we're not getting paid the way the utility really should be paid. We're not being paid for carbon, we're not being paid for reliability, we're not being paid for voltage. You know, if you're a Waterford plant down in Louisiana, there's no wires coming in from the Gulf. If that plant goes away, you got a grid problem there. San Onofre got some weak problems in Southern California right now, and in the right condition, we could lose a lot of them. And there'll be a lot of finger pointing and blame, but they'll forget to blame whoever shut down San Onofre. So we don't get paid that way because historically we didn't need to. Today we need to, so the revenue stream has to change. We have to make those changes. Unfortunately, we'll probably lose some plants before we get the message across. We already have, right? So you got all kinds of stuff coming at you. Demographics, economic environments, merchant plants versus regulated, the regulatory problems that we deal with, waste. What is the utility of the future going to look like? Guess what? Let's throw in there delivering those promise. Is that going to stress anybody? It already is. And there's a lot of room. I get calls all the time from my client. I've told them, I've gone on my way to get a key. And I said, look, if you hear something that sounds stupid, call me up. We'll talk about it. Most of the time, it's an absent step matter. It ain't true. Yeah, all rumors are based on a little bit of truth, right? And then they get blown out of proportion. This one's rampant. Efficiency, effectiveness, and innovation. So efficiency is like getting to a 30-day outage. Effectiveness is doing it safer with more quality and running a whole lot better afterwards. Well, let's take innovation. You talked about innovation, technology, especially in the business you're in. Is there any way we can handle this material better, more efficient? I love it when you talk technology. Any of y'all get one of these? How many of y'all have a phone? Do you have them all silent, vibrate? I'm just kidding. So here's my technology story. I look at this thing and I say, how did I find my wife in the mall before I had this thing? I mean, think about it. Some of y'all can still remember that. We would pull up, we would do a 2-minute drill, strategize, we'd have a plan, we'd set up a meeting place, you know, because you didn't have a phone, right? Today, I walk up, drop her off, I see you later, I go find a leather chair, take a nap. All malls have leather chairs now. I mean, it's good marketing. True story, about 4 years ago, I'm in the Fashion Square Mall in Phoenix. I'm sitting there taking my nap, my phone rang, I didn't have it on vibrate on purpose because it woke me up. That's my wife. And then I realized I could hear her. Look, she's standing with her back to me. So I thought I'd be smart. I went over and I grabbed her. She screamed bloody murder. She denied to the security officers that she knew me. True story. Technology, what a wonderful thing. Oh yeah, we've been married 44 years. She knows how to get back there. I'm not in 8th grade, got married at 18. I'm real lucky. So. Technology. What kind of capabilities out there? You know, we have to make, but a lot of times technology, all we do is take that same bureaucratic, inefficient system and then we make it electronic. That's not technology. You need to redo it, streamline it. Undoing it's tough. Now, let's make a commitment. All new ones we put in this system, and now we're going to start going back and carefully trying to dismantle certain pieces. Where do we go from here? I said earlier we focus on the core fundamentals. So let me start. Most of you, if I'm not safely generating, and you can't show me what you're doing is helping me do that, you need change. Now safely, I'm a fanatic on it. Nuclear, industrial, radiological safety culture. That's not going to be an option. That doesn't mean we won't take a little bit more risk. So it's not a black and white issue there. Core fundamentals. So first, I need to operate the plant, operations. I need to maintain the plant. What are you doing to help them? Then I'll get into engineering. Yes, I have to maintain design bases and license bases, but we need to go back and think about is that supporting safely and efficiently generating. So that's your point. That's your common ground. And for years, sometimes we were acting because it was a good idea, not because it was helping my core business necessarily. These things kind of take off on their own. And again, it's going to be difficult. 3 focus areas, and I want to talk about, again, if you look at the value part of the side, you're mainly going to hear about the efficiency and cost part of the side. The value part, if you kind of look at headlines, I think you know things are happening there. We've gone after consciously. We just restructured NEI to help improve that. So we're putting a whole lot of effort, and you won't hear a whole lot over it, you'll see the fallout. In fact, maybe you've heard all the stuff in New York going on. You think that happened accidentally? Things don't just happen accidentally. So now we've got that first move. Net metering started in Arizona, and everybody picked it up. Now this is starting in New York, so we're starting to get a little bit more pay for what we do. Unfortunately, it will not be done fast enough in some locales to save all plants. But we're at 100 plants right now. We got 4 being built, and 100 is because I count West Bar. Got 4 being built. We got a few we know we're going to shut down immediately, and we got a lot right on the boat. So the best case scenarios will be in 5 years we're at 95. Maybe we can do a few more than that. Or we make it down to 75 or 80. Then all of a sudden, what happens to my NRC fees and my IMPO fees? If they stay the same, my cost went up. So I can't distribute it as much. Some of these functions that we do, now we can't spread that cost over a bigger area, it goes down. So your industry can get in a spiral here. You think this is necessary? It is very necessary and very dangerous, but absolutely necessary. These are all the areas that we currently have. There is a CNO in charge of every area. The CNOs, and many of y'all don't know, we meet at least 6 times a year for a day and a half. We've been doing that for years. We know each other very well. Every one of them's on my speed dial. I think nothing of calling up a CNO at 1 in the morning and asking for help. Or if I have a problem, sometimes they call me before I look for them. Even if we're extremely strong competitors, we're in utilities sitting right across. Because in the nuclear plants, we always share people, resources, parts, intelligence. But we do have an industry starting to separate. For years, our industry went together. We were building together, we were declining together, then license renewal, then potential for renaissance, and now where are we at? Today, we have some plants that know they're shutting down. We have some plants that are in license renewal and think they'll go for even beyond 60. And we have some new plants. So we have an industry that's separating for the first time in its career. And that will affect unity. Because if you're shutting down, you're not necessarily worrying about investing. You're worrying about surviving the next 4 years. Theoretically, California will be nuclear free in 9 years if this deal continues and passes through. Of course, 20% of Palo Verde provides it. We try to stay under the radar screen. You know, we don't allow them to know that we get nuclear power to California. Maybe we'll sell it to them. The video I'm about to show you was debating what to do it. So I have the training piece. And this is one of our communication efforts. We've done one on every group, so if you haven't heard it, you should be looking at it. Different CNOs are doing them. We're trying to put information out regularly. Some plants are doing it better than others. But so this video, the reason I chose to show it is all the training groups groups have seen this, and it's available. I believe training sets an environment so that you're always pursuing knowledge. I think formal training maybe gives you 40–50% of what you need. It's that continuing training out in the field, the standards and behaviors. It's really important for everybody to get engaged. This is your business. This is your livelihood. The best ideas are out in the field. So you can have 3,000 good ideas, but if you can align 100 or 200 working together where we're all moving in the same direction, then that's a powerful change. So it's not about every single idea. We need every one of them. But we need to then challenge it, pick the ones we're going to do, and then we need to move together as an industry to do the right thing. Probably one of the biggest ones is standardizing and processing across the entire industry, and that helps us, it helps every plant, it helps every vendor. Frankly, we do it with more quality and safety than we're currently doing it. So this is just a great example where we all do it individually, we do it similar. There's not a single regulation that makes us do that. It's our own personal plants and our own areas. So move together as an industry, so that'll be one. But all the initial training over years, we have added and added and added. I want to be clear that this effort is about being efficient, effective, and maintaining safety. But just because you're getting more efficient doesn't mean you can't stay just as effective, maybe even improve it, and certainly improve safety. I've seen this industry go through dramatic changes, and we've always improved safety and performance. But over time, we've built up years of bureaucracy and all. But we're asking not to just think about how we're doing it, but to go back and say, how would you do it? What's the new technologies or the new thinking? Then go back and look at your core business again. Make sure you keep that core business. Don't forget, we must come out of this safer and with high performance, maybe even higher, while we're improving our efficiency. I think one of the biggest differences on this one is, again, we're trying to move as an industry holistically and together. We're trying, again, to build on what we learned from Fukushima. Our industry's been coming together for many, many years, and we train together, we have the same regulator, we've done courses at INFO, we've done evaluation, so over time we have come together, and then we learned how to magnify that and use that. So that's really what's different about this effort. If you're looking at cost cutting, I'm really looking for cost effectiveness. So how can I do this better quality, better safety, and more cost effective? The people of the country and frankly the world needs nuclear power. They need the carbon-free generation. We must go take this on, take it on hard, and go do the right thing. And it does not mean cutting corners. It means rethinking, protect the core, protect the safety, and do this the right way. So that's just for the training. We're trying to look at every single section and get that information out there. So we get into efficiency bulletins, which, some of you see, again, the rumors get started, but one example is every 2 years we used to review all the standards and training. Sometimes you had contractors do it. Why did we do it every 2 years? Because. So we went to 6. I mean, really, training standards don't change that often. When you put something new, you're supposed to add that new JTA or whatever in there. So 6 years is pretty comfortable. As long as you're doing the process up front, and even if you're not, a full-blown review every 6 years, set every 2, it just makes sense. It's kind of stupid to do it every 2 years. Doesn't even make sense when you think about it. Maybe 8 or 10 on me. We chose 6 for now. One example. Why do we do certain things? I worry about timelines. This in-processing, I already mentioned it. Why do we not, in-processing costs us millions of dollars per plant per outage. When you calculate it all out, the people not getting into work or sitting around for a week, etc., efficiency gains. Why do we do it the way we do it? So we've looked. There is one regulation. The American Nuclear Society wants us to test RP tanks every 2 years, so we put that in. That's about it that we found. Rest of it is because at my plant, I'm in the desert, so obviously all the stuff y'all do don't apply when it comes to me, right? Fire watches, they gotta be retrained in the desert. You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, not easy because we got lines, we got to standardize a lot of training programs and all that, but let me be clear. We are going to standardize in processing. And we're going to do it very similar to how we did the common connections. When we got in common connections, we were in a room where a lot of people were arguing about which one to use, and we finally said, that's it, I'm done, this is the standard, go do it. So everything we do is going to roll up that CNO committee, we're going to point it out, and we're going to say, go do that. And it ain't always going to be just right, but it's also not going to be your way out every time. So we're going to standardize in processing, and there's going to be functionally an industry badge, which you cannot hold hostage. If they've been trained in fire protection and RP, that's there. We will allow your site maybe to do a functional test or something. So you want to, they're trained in RP, then they all go walk through a mock-up and pass. And if they don't pass, they get kicked out of remediating training. If they do pass, they go in your plant. And fire watches don't need to be retrained every single plant they go to, right? That happens. You know, we get hours of training of fire watches, and they leave Callaway and come to the desert, and I don't accept it. I don't think my fire training is a hell of a lot different, but by the way, I still I can get it to line. But it ain't going to be easy because I got to go fight a lot of people. And everybody's trying to do the right thing. But you got to understand, this industry is on the verge. If we get down to 80 or 70, we may create that death spiral. Yeah. And a lot of what we do falls apart. Some of the things we're working on, some that's coming up. Here's we'll get to the last few slides. Results count. So in the end, we want to see if we were able to make these changes. How you get those results count. I am not asking you to cut corners, round corners, or do the wrong thing. I am telling you that part of the process is us having good, professional, heated arguments sometimes, and they can be heated and professional. As long as you're not talking about my mother, I'll listen to you. Yeah. We need to be able to argue professionally and disagree, and eventually we need to decide and move together as an industry, which may not be your way or my way. I'm perfectly willing to change, but I'm not just going to change for the sake of change. So that's part of the process. Results count and how you get the results. So when you hear this stuff that sounds stupid, in some cases it is stupid, and it's not even true. It's probably based on a little bit of truth. So what was our job? For most of us, safely and efficiently generate electricity for the long term. You make electricity with nuclear power for a living. Safely is capitalized in red and underlined on purpose. Nuclear industrial radiological safety culture. It is not a choice. It's not an option. It's not something you get to play with. It will be done, or you need to get out of this industry, period. Which doesn't mean we can't change and maybe, in some cases, give up a little bit of rent of safety margin, a little, because the work effort is taking away more safety margin than that piece is. And that is really what's happening. Some of the volume of work we're doing is so big, it is taking away our focus and attention on the plants. So get back to this. Think about ops and maintenance and the core part of engineering. Fire protection, security, there's core pieces. Let's get rid of the bureaucracy where we can. With that, questions? And I did go a little long, but I think I got about 15 minutes. Yes, sir.
Some of the aspects of the nuclear promise is as much digital as possible. Get out of the plants, let the computers do the work for you. It's all great. The biggest thing we're losing is IT, budgets, people. going the wrong way there on the IT end. Where do you see that from the CNO perspective on IT investment?
You know, it's interesting. I'm an ex-mechanic welder, so I think you can't fix a ball peen hammer. You got to question it anyway. But interesting, I gave my IT groups fits because you have a lot of new failure mechanisms and all when you put IT digital systems in. But they're absolutely necessary, and I actually support them pretty well, I think, budget-wise and all. I have found through the years that there's a lot of CNOs they got up there, and for whatever reason, they got a lot of wrong feelings about IT. You know, there for a while, IT, it was the latest bells and whistles. This is new, and let's do it this way. And you have to get back to that core business. Is it going to help my operators? Is it going to help my maintenance first? So we've done a lot of IT systems that were bells and whistles, and therefore it got a bad press. That's the reality. And it's changed so much and so fast. And then IT, you know, Microsoft started this new business model. I mean, in 4 years it's obsolete, so put the new system in. I'm running power plants. And my IT, they hate me. I say, tell me the digital system you put in the last 20 or 30 years. I don't want artificial obsolescence. By the way, by the time I figure out the mod to put it in, it takes 3 years, and they're telling me it's obsolete. Any y'all ever hear that?
Oh, yeah.
And it's true, right? So the reality is we've done a lot to ourselves in this area, and we have a lot of people that are very upset about IT because of the history. Now, if you go back and you're logical and you look at the history, so the best way is IT needs to talk about the core business and what are you doing to maintain the core business over the next 15, 20, 30 years. And don't tell me it's going to be obsolete in 3 years, or I can put it in. Yeah. Plus, this system, the biggest problem with IT today is this component will do 1,000 things. That's the way they sell it. And I want it to do 10 things. And those other 990 things are liabilities because somebody's going to get here and touch something and put my plant down. Now they don't, it's interesting for me to go dumb down the IT to only do 10 things is hard and expensive. So the reality is to have the core digital systems that we want that are simple and relatively stupid costs money because that's not what the markets do. Now as cybersecurity and digital challenges, you know, one of the reasons nuclear plants are so good on cyber, and we got our cyber challenges, but compared to a fossil plant, you can't operate now. You got to go through that. My control systems are inside the physical. They don't go outside. The only information go outside. There's hundreds of other ways, and I'm not going to get into. You guys know it better than I do. You know, when I go to different countries, depending on which country it is, I don't take my computer. I take a dummy computer that I can use, and then they clean it. By the way, my company basically, if I bring a camera, I have to give them my camera and they have to check it before I come back, before I'm allowed to plug it in anywhere in some countries. So there's a hell of a lot of industrial cyber going on and other malicious. So it's necessary and dangerous. And you just got to get real. So in the end, you got to help build the business case. You got to show how, and you got to recognize there's been a history here that has some truth to it, but has been blown out of proportion. A lot of what I was talking about earlier. I actually, even though I have the reputation of being hardcore with the IT guys, and you really look at what I fund, I'm pretty generous relative to most CNOs. And I find myself in an argument with other CNOs about, you guys, you need to understand IT will help you. Now, don't tell my guys I'm saying that, okay? I got this good reputation with them, so they're always ready when they come in and talk to me. And I always bring my ball peen hammers out and lay them on the table when the IT guys are. You laugh, I do. Yes.
What's your view on records management and changes related to this that you think personally records management should consider?
I think first off, y'all done a lot of really good, and I've seen the records management change and evolve. Again, my my biggest concern with records management a lot of times is we're doing some things the way we've always done it. That's not even necessarily record management. You gotta get back to why are we doing it this way. I think we keep a lot of records unnecessarily. It's back to why do I keep them? That should stick matter. So show me where it is really written, not where you think it's written, not where you repeat it for 20 years. Show it to me in writing. And by the way, I can change that, especially under this environment. All of the nuclear plants together, going into IMPO or NRC or ANI and saying, we don't want to do it this way anymore. We might be able to change the rule if the rule, just because the rule's always been there, doesn't mean it needs to stay there. It's a little harder, but we have the forum to do it and we have the momentum to do it. So this is an opportunity to go clean some of that up. Yeah, so I applaud what you've done. And it's a huge area, how record gains, but let's go down to why do I even need that record? Let me give you a real story. I was at A&O years ago, and I decided we took 5 hours to take the log readings out of an 8-hour shift. So I sat down to figure out why. You know, when I got done, the logs took 30 minutes. Because we had computers now, that was better, we had this and that. So the log, you know what, people, first off, it was interesting. So we took 3 readings in the main steam isolation room, which was hard to get to. 3 readings. And over time, those 3 readings got added to the PM program. They got it added to the IT vet, and they checked it every 6 months, and they kept them calibrated. Do you know why we had 3 readings in that room? Because we wanted somebody to go up there and look in that room. So we added 3 log readings. And all of y'all done, go look at your logs. A lot of what you do today has no rhyme or reason. It's just you've always done it that way. Now, at the end of that 30 minutes, when I can bring it to the guys and say, all right, 30 minutes of log taking, they say, well, we need to add some stuff back because they won't be out there enough. So well, why don't you just tell them to get out there? They're operators. Tell them to get in the plant. Here's 30 minutes worth of readings. By the way, I was looking for a way to make those digital, even though I was an ex-mechanic, where I could stop doing that, where my operators could get out there and look at the plant. Computers can trend stuff pretty good. I don't need an operator trending that. I need them out looking. There's something wrong with my plant. Go find it. Instead of taking your time writing logs all the time, when a computer can flag me when it's out of spec. Does it better. So that's where I'm at on record management. A lot to do. Of course, the technology today is just amazing. And of course, we went to the state. I know none of y'all want to know it. We only do this at Palo Verde. Maybe it was A&O, or maybe it was Nebraska, or maybe it was Louisiana, or maybe it was New. I've been in a lot of plants. I've done 5 recovery plants. Plants that we're calling for. People ask me why I do it. I say I'm the only one stupid enough to do that. But it's the same everywhere. You know, you just constantly battle through these things, and it's become real clear. And just ask, why am I doing it? And if you think you get a good answer, dig to the next level. Here's another real story on a Cooper station, and somebody had done something in the HR. Different example of this group told me I had to fire the person, and they quoted all the rules and regs, and I handed them a Missouri license plate. And 2 days later, I called them up and said, when are you going to come back and talk to me? Well, they did. And they had highlighted a sentence, actually a part of the sentence. And it basically said, if this happens, you need to do this. The part they didn't highlight said, unless the VP says otherwise. So I'm the VP, I say otherwise. We're legal. And by the way, if it didn't say that, I was going to have you add it. Because I'm not firing this person, it's not the right thing to do. Now, we could have fired it legally and been fine, it just wasn't the right thing to do at the time. But it was back in actual techniques. So, believe me, go back and ask why. And then go see it, and read it, and look at it. And there are so many times, it's just, if it's there at all, it's not real what the actions I'm currently doing. And if it is real and it's stupid, let's go change it. We have the forum today. Get it to your CNO or me, and I'll get it in the environment. We'll go try to we don't change enough stuff, we're gonna lose more plants. Other questions? All right, I believe I was supposed to be done at 11:45, and it's now 11:44, so as we say in Arizona, y'all have a good day.